Growing up, many of us were taught a simple idea. If you are a good person, things will eventually work out. Be kind, be honest, work hard, and sooner or later, life will reward you. It's a comforting belief, but history doesn't always work that way, and neither does great literature. Margaret Mitchell's Gone with the Wind present a world where kindness, honor, and good intentions are not always enough. Some of the novel's kindest characters lose almost everything, while one of his most controversial characters survives. That character is Scarlett O'Hara. She is stubborn, manipulative, often selfish, and yet, when the Civil War destroys the world she once knew, she succeeds where many better people fail. Why? Was it simply luck, or did Scarlett possess something the other lacked? I don't think the answer lies in whether Scarlett was a good person. I think it lies in something much more uncomfortable. She understood that when the world changes, the qualities need to survive change with it. In this video, we will explore why Scarlett O'Hara succeeded when so many good people failed and what her story reveals about human nature. Scarlett O'Hara, one of the most controversial characters in literature. She is selfish, opportunistic, manipulative, utterly childish, and at times completely shameless. She isn't the kindest person, she isn't the most honest, she isn't the most admirable, and yet, by the end of the Gone with the Wind, she is the one of the few characters still standing. I don't think the answer is luck, and I don't think Margaret Mitchell was trying to tell us that selfish people always win. I think Scarlett possessed a few qualities that became incredibly valuable when the world around her collapsed. The first, and perhaps the most important, was Scarlett accepted reality before everyone else. Before the Civil War, Scarlett O'Hara lived a life of comfort. She grew up at Tara, surrounded by wealth, servants, and luxury. Like many young women of her social class, she never worried about where the next meal would come from or how the family would survive. Her biggest concerns were parties, dresses, and whether Ashley Wilkes loved her. In many ways, Scarlett was sheltered. She had never experienced hunger, poverty, or the responsibility of keeping a family alive. Then the war destroyed everything. The plantation collapsed, money lost its value, food became scarce, the social order she had always known disappeared almost overnight. Most people around her struggled to accept this new reality. They held on to the hope that life would soon return to the way it had been. They clung to old tradition, old pride, and memories of a world that no longer existed. But Scarlett didn't. She realized that wishing for the past wouldn't change the present. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to us?" she asked, "What must I do to survive?" That question changed the course of her life. She stopped living for yesterday and started preparing for tomorrow. We see the same thing in our own life. Imagine someone who loses their job because technology has changed the industry. One person spent years hoping things will go back to the way they were. Another accepts the change, learns a new skills and move forward. The difference isn't intelligence, it's acceptance. Scarlett's greatest strength wasn't that she never faced hardship. It was that she accepted the hardship faster than everyone else. You can't adapt to a future while refusing to let go of the past. And this brings us to the next point, point number two. Scarlett acted while others hesitated. If there is one quality that separated Scarlett O'Hara from almost everyone around her, it was her willingness to act. Most people hesitate. They wait until they are certain. They wait until everyone agrees. They wait until the decision feels comfortable. Scarlett rarely did. One of the clearest examples is Frank Kennedy. When Scarlett discovered that Frank was about to marry her sister Sulen, she also realized he had enough money to help save Tara. Instead of accepting the situation, she convinced Frank to marry her instead. Was it a selfish decision? Many readers would say yes. But that's not the question I'm asking. The important point is this. While everyone else was waiting for life to solve their problems, Scarlett made a decision. Whether people approved of her or not didn't stop her from acting. We see this pattern again later in the story. After the death of her father and mother, Scarlett found herself responsible for Tara and everyone living there. In that time, women of her social class were expected to stay away from business. Society believed business belonged to men. Scarlett ignored these expectations. She managed the sawmill herself, negotiated with workers, and made decisions that many women of her time were never expected to make. She didn't wait for permission, she learned by doing. This reminds me of something we often see today. Many people have an idea for a business, a YouTube channel, or a new career. But before they begin, they want every answer. What if I fail? What if people laugh at me? What if it doesn't work? So they keep waiting. Months turn into years. Someone else starts with less knowledge, makes mistakes, learns from them, and eventually succeeds. The difference isn't always intelligence. Sometimes it's simply the courage to take the first step before you feel ready. Scarlett understood something many people never do. Actions creates clarity. Point number 3. Scarlett chose survival over reputation. Throughout Gone with the Wind, no matter how many hardships she faces, one instinct always remains stronger than the rest: her determination to survive. Even when everything around her falls apart, she refuses to surrender. One of the greatest differences between Scarlett O'Hara and the people around her was that they valued most. Many characters believed that reputation, honor, and tradition should never be compromised. Scarlett believed something else. When survival was at stake, reputation became a luxury. This is one of the reasons so many people misunderstood her. Take the example of Sawmill. In the south of Scarlett's time, wealthy women were expected to stay at home. Business belongs to men. A widow, especially, was expected to behave with dignity, avoid public work, and rely on others. Scarlett ignored those expectations. She managed her own sawmill, negotiated with workers, and made business decisions herself. People criticized her. Some thought she was improper. Others believed she had forgotten how a lady was supposed to behave. Scarlett accepted that criticism because she had already decided what matters more. Not appearances, not approval, survival. Another example is her marriage to Frank Kennedy. Many readers see it as one of Scarlett's most controversial decisions. She knew Frank had the money needed to help save Tara, and she chose to marry him instead of allowing him to marry her sister. Whether we agree with that decision is a moral question, but it also reveals something about Scarlett's priorities. When she believed her family's future was at risk, she was willing to sacrifice her reputation to secure their survival. Most people try to protect both. Scarlett understood that sometimes life forces you to choose, and when it did, she chose survival. This idea still applies today. Imagine someone who loses job after years in the same profession. They are offered another job that pays well but is considered less prestigious. Many people reject opportunities because they worry about what others will think. Scarlett would probably ask a different question. Does this move my life forward? She understood something that many people struggle to accept. The opinion of others cannot feed your family, solve your problems, or build your future. That doesn't mean reputation is worthless. It means reputation should never become more important than reality. Scarlett wasn't trying to impress the world, she was trying to survive in it. And those are two different goals. When reputation and survival stood on opposite sides, Scarlett always knew which one she would choose. Point number 4. Scarlett focused on what she could control. One of Scarlett O'Hara's greatest strengths was knowing the difference between what she could change and what she could not. She could not stop the Civil War, she could not bring back the Old South, she could not undo the death of loved ones, she could not force Ashley to love her. Those things were outside her control. Instead of spending her energy wishing reality were different, Scarlett focused on the choices still available to her. How could she save Tara? How could she feed her family? How could she rebuild her life? Those were the questions that occurred her mind. Take Tara for example. After the war, Scarlett couldn't erase the destruction surrounding her. She couldn't magically restore the family's wealth or undo everything that had been lost. But she could work, she could search for food, she could make difficult choices to keep Tara alive, and that's exactly what she did. Another example is her decision to marry Frank Kennedy. Again, she couldn't change the fact that Tara needed money. She couldn't change the economic reality after the war, but she believed she could change her family's future by making difficult choice. Whether we agree with that decision morally is another discussion. The point is that Scarlett always looked for the next move she could make instead of becoming trapped by circumstances she couldn't control. We face the same choice in our own life. Imagine someone who dreams of starting a business. They spend months worrying about the economy, competition, or what other people might think. Those concerns may be real, but worrying about them doesn't change them. What they can control is learning a skill, saving money, finding customers, or taking the first step. The same is true for almost every goal. If you sep- the same is true for almost every goal. If you spend all your energy thinking about obstacles you cannot change, you will never have enough energy to act on opportunities you can. Scarlett understood something many people forget. You don't move forward by controlling everything, you move forward by controlling the next decision. And the final point, the world changed and Scarlett changed with it. One of the greatest tragedies in Gone with the Wind is that many of the people who failed weren't bad people. Melanie was kind, Ashley was honorable. Many of the Southern families were raised with dignity, manners, and strong principles. Yet, those qualities alone couldn't protect them from the new world that emerged after Civil War. The wars changed everything. The economy collapsed, plantation disappeared, old traditions lost their power. The rule that had guided an entire generation no longer worked. Many people continued living as though the world would eventually return. Scarlett didn't. She understood that survival required a different way of thinking. She wasn't loyal to the past, she was loyal to the future. Others waited for life to become familiar again. She accepted that it never would. This is a lesson that extends far beyond the novel. Every generation experiences moments when the rules suddenly change. New technology replaces old job, business fail, entire industry disappear. People who insist on living by yesterday's rules often struggle in tomorrow's world. The one who adapt are usually the one who move forward. This doesn't mean that kindness, honor, integrity are unimportant. They are, but during period of great change, they must be accompanied by adaptability. Because good intentions alone cannot overcome a reality that has already changed. Scarlett understood this before almost everyone else. The war changed the rules, Scarlett changed with them. Why did Scarlett succeed when good people failed? Not because she was kinder, not because she was morally superior, not because she was the smartest person in the room. She succeeded because she understood something that many others didn't. When the world changes, surviving isn't about clinging to the values of yesterday. It's about recognizing the new reality and responding to it. That doesn't mean every decision Scarlett made was right. Many of them came with painful consequences. She achieved survival, but often at the cost of relationships, trust, and eventually her own happiness. Perhaps that's why Scarlett O'Hara remains one of literature's most fascinating characters. She forces us to ask an uncomfortable question. If everything familiar disappeared tomorrow, would we adopt or would we spend our lives waiting for the world that no longer exists?